Been there this week, in fact.
This week?
Yeah. Gwen and Lauren. I mean,
This isn't going in. Don't worry.
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, please.
What's funny is that there's no context. It's you just like naming two women that you've said and going.
Well, like Mr.
Gave me
Bean.
sort of more of a sort of roguish air than I intended there to be like.
Like Miss Bean.
Yeah. In many ways, I am like Miss Bean in the sense of like blundering into 3 and foursomes and then being like.
Okay.
The episode where Mr. Bean changes his gender by accident, walking backwards into the GIC.
I think that happened to this journalist one time. And
All right. Let's crack on.
Well, they changed Jamal Khashoggi.
yeah. That's why nobody saw him walking out, because it was a beautiful woman at that point.
It's a beautiful lady.
They were like, "Will you stop reporting on the Saudi government if we turn you into an absolute smoke show?" And he was
I
like,
would
"Yeah,
take
I wouldn't
that
want
deal.
to."
Yeah, who wouldn't? Like,
Now I don't need to report on the Saudi government.
exactly. Yeah.
Because I'm too busy like getting Instagram messages from footballers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is that one of the primary activities of like Stacks trans women? It's like I guess so, actually.
Okay. All right. Let's actually begin. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this free episode
It's
of
the
TF.
free one.
We are coming at you from the studio. It is Riley, is Milo. It is November.
Yeah.
And
It is boiling hot. The climate change is coming for us.
and we are looking at the ways the different political parties are planning on beating the heat.
Oh, beat the heat. There you go. That joke's back.
We're all like slightly deranged. I know I am, because like
Is it that hot?
I feel like it. I've been on a bus for an hour through central London to get here on time.
Bus in central London is
Yeah, I have been broiled. I no longer think that we have 10 years to save the climate, 9 years, 11 months to save the West. I think we have about -5 months to save the climate, and it's fucked. It's just over. Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we have an election campaign that's going to decide, are we going to have 5 months to save the climate or 5 months and 3 weeks to save the climate via a series of privately funded initiatives. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the election in some detail later on, where I've gone through the Reform Manifesto.
Oh boy.
Which is, I think,
very sensible and well costed.
A lot of slurs.
Some.
Very well costed slurs.
Yeah. We can afford this one.
It's actually free for the government to use these. Do you know this?
Some of these ones have fallen out of copyright. They're so old.
It will go to bring back royalty-free slurs.
Yeah, we're using John Blackthorne's phrase book, just...
Why does the manifesto start with, "I'm in the bloody Japan"?
I think that the Reform Manifesto is likely to be, in my view, the document that defines most political conversation in Britain among the sort of uniparty elite for the next 5 years.
Not another one of these. The last one was shit too.
Yeah,
that was the Tory manifesto, right?
I'm afraid that this is the new one.
Can't we have a nice one for a change? As a favor?
We tried that. It was racist somehow.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry, everybody.
What if we had one that was like My Side by David Beckham, and all the main political parties had to just discuss that?
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, I mean, government would go on much the same.
Actually improves with every read.
But what I think is really fun, and we're going to sort of take a little bit of a detour before we get back to reform, is just looking at the election campaign and watching what happens as the Conservatives get fucking Corbyned every single day.
Get Corbyn, idiot.
Yeah.
Although without any of the genuine belief, no one's out here outrighting for Rishi Sunak and being like, I just got my heart broken.
Yeah.
I really thought change was possible with this guy, but now
Imagine that, the most briefcase carrying ass 14-year-old, the most bullied person of all time, grown in a lab to be a real bag carrier for Rishi Sunak.
Once again, the world's unhappiest leader. Basically, has going on the radio and essentially just getting, I would say, as you said, November, getting a kind of fan-shen sort of a self-criticism session.
Yeah, they put the big dunce cap on him, and then they set him up in front of an hour's worth of LBC callers. which I appreciate.
Like the pensioners, like Soviet, basically.
Yeah. And like as ever, I'm in two minds about this, right? Because on the one hand, it's nice to see Sunak and Tories generally like humiliated. On the other hand, when you see how the humiliation ritual is arranged, it kind of, a bit of the sheen comes off. You're just like, oh, this isn't organic, actually. It's just they've decided they're done with this guy. So they've just like set him up in front of the firing squad.
In this case, they were like, how do you stay energized on campaign? Which is supposed to be... Right,
don't say coke, don't say coke, don't say coke, don't say coke. Do not say cocaine. Do not say cocaine.
That's supposed to be the gimme question that they give you to hit out of the park.
Yeah.
When
do not say huge lines.
Where then they turn around and ask the Labour candidate something like, when did you stop beating your wife?
Yeah. Whereas Keir Starmer, how many huge rails of cocaine does it take to get you through the average day?
Well, I think the correct number. I take a moderate approach to cocaine. I know cocaine is important to many people in our society. It gets people going. It enables people to start small plates restaurants, which are the backbone of many local communities.
Once they close the private schools, they're going to have to replace them with a new industry in like a lot of these market towns. Small plates restaurants. So what happened is Rishi Sunak then said,
the work the Corker fields.
Rishi Sunak then said, I eat a Twix or a Haribo. Bringing
that single Haribo.
Only the right Twix, though, never a left Twix.
Bringing Matt Hancock to mind for me, he then gets berated by the caller, who's like, how insensitive is that?
Yeah, children's fucking teeth are falling out, you heinous piece of shit. Yeah. You've never had to think about dentistry in your life, which is a fair enough thing, but like, again, you can see what's happening here, right?
Yeah. It's bizarre because like Rishi Sunak is also the reason why you can't go to the dentist, but what they're getting him on is the fact that he eats a Haribo sometimes and he's setting a bad example about children's teeth. He's like, no, he's the reason that children can't go to the dentist. Like, just get him on the thing. Like, how are you accidentally right? How is that what's happening?
It's the same thing as like, Keir Starmer, like responding to Just Stop Oil protesters, like agree with them or not, like going and like spraying orange paint on stuff, being like,
agree with them, looks sick.
If you disrespect Stonehenge, I'll come after you with the full force of the law. And it's like
Keir Starmer, powerful druid.
With the full force of the druids. The god of the summer solstice, the god of the winter solstice. Yeah. I think the Just Stop Oil protesters should be put into a large wicker man. And set alight, which will ironically emit quite a lot of carbon dioxide into the air, but that will teach them.
But again, we're angry because we don't like how you're reminding us. Because like, we need to preserve British heritage and British monuments, and it's like, don't you understand that the only way to we're angry at people telling us that in a way we don't like, as opposed to the process that will, I don't know, probably wash Stonehenge into the sea at some point. But
quite a distance.
Well, at the same time, right?
Destroying the A303.
Oh God.
a very high sea level at that point.
It's the only arterial road in the West Country.
Just Stop Oil has a point. No, but at the same time, right? As all of this is happening, this is, I would say, one of the most disconnected from people's actual priorities elections in recent British memory. At the entire, I think I mentioned this on another show, but I cannot stop imagining that like the entire political class, basically minus Nigel Farage and the Greens, have and Ed Davey, like the Uniparty, the Labour Tory Uniparty, has collectively stolen the phone and hidden in the fridge. They're not doing hustings. They're basically not coming out with policies. They're just trying to wait it out so that the process can take its own logic.
I mean, the Tories will drop in a slur every now and again. You see their new campaign video, which is just like rolling out a red carpet on the beach for the small boats. Just fully like, that's not going to have any negative repercussions, I don't think.
Nor is being like, oh yeah, Keir Starmer is an enemy of the state. Other things
nothing stochastic is going to happen, As stochastic, pretty certain those are the guys who like gave you a voucher in school to buy a horrible histories book.
That's right. Yeah. Well, the Tories just want to do a Met Gala for refugees, which I think is admirable.
Yeah. Well, this is why we're going to go back to the Reform Manifesto later, because what the Tories have decided is that and the right, by the way, is the energy on the right is not in basically doing Blairism, but with
it's not let's talk about fiscal solutions. It's let's kill the fuckers.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
in Haribo's and a right Twix.
Yeah, well, it is essentially exterminate the
Terrible
brutes.
reboot of 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps.
The more juvenile.
Yeah, it's
reboot.
kind of like a Muppet Babies situation, you know.
Any case. The other piece of news, of course, is while all this is happening, and there is no more like just ripping the copper wire out of Britain sense than multiple now sort of people close to the Conservative Party getting done by the cops for having bet on the date of the election.
It's only getting worse, and I wish we had predicted that and put some kind of a bet on it, perhaps. No, it really does feel like it's something that's been going on forever, and we're just only now noticing. Now that we've turned the big noticing things on, and the Gambling Commission has gone, okay, well, maybe we should look at like who bet on the time of the election. And the answer is like a couple of Tories and like one of Rishi Sunak's bodyguards, who is clearly like in the front of the Land Rover. Like, oh yeah, I might as well get like, 500 quid off.
That's cool though. If you're Rishi Sunak's bodyguard, you should do that.
Yeah. Oh no, justice for that guy, because he's just like, it's like counting
ACAB, except for the like Met Police guy who drives Rishi Sunak around all day, has to listen to him. It's like, I may as well get 500 quid off of Ladbrokes.
Do you get paid less to bodyguard Rishi Sunak because just like by surface area, there's not that much of him to guard? Like you really can be half-assed, just like vaguely like sticking your leg out in front of him like he's a wicket, you know.
I was on the Boris uplift for a number of years.
They had 3 guys on Boris.
So it's a real terms pay cut, you know?
No, this is, I think of, if you're in that position, I think of betting on the election date like card counting, which is, it should be allowed, and it's just,
cool.
It's just you winning.
They make a really cool movie about it every now and then, and you're just like, man, okay.
Anyway. But look, I want to move on from election talk, because we will get back to it, or at least the Tory election talk.
I regret to announce that it's still happening.
Yes, unfortunately, it's still happening. On the other side, just looking in at some of the Labour trying to reconcile its position of needing to sort of trying to maintain the normal people vote, the regular vote, while also
the Sally Rooney caucus,
while also courting the swivel-eyed lunatic vote at the same time, leads especially Health Secretary Wes Streeting to often take strange positions.
Yeah, well, I mean, Wes Streeting doesn't believe in anything, but he is extremely transphobic, so that's fun. Is this the cubicle thing?
Yeah, So
what he said was, and Starmer doubled down on this as well, that we need to like respect single-sex spaces like hospital wards, which find me a single-sex hospital ward, right? By not
find me a hospital ward.
Well, exactly. By single-sex corridors, by not having like trans patients in them, but instead trans patients should get put into a cubicle, but like respectfully, like a respectful cubicle,
like a nice cubicle.
Yeah, join me.
The respect cubicle,
yes, okay, yeah.
The George Galloway cubicle.
Oh God, no, I don't want him in there. No, it's not even a doctor.
It is a cubicle, but it is outfitted like a first-class cabin on an Emirates flight. How about that?
Yeah. I really like as a kind of thing of not separate but equal, but separate but better. That like, okay, there's a bunch of like cis women in this corridor who are pissed off because I'm in a really luxurious like Orient Express kind of stateroom with my broken leg.
With George Galloway.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like me to be the doctor?
Yeah, no, just do that, and incentivize people lying about being trans. I think it'd be funny.
Yeah. And right, like this is, of course, again, because we know what happens, when you are outwardly weird and your main thing is being weird, which is that
you get put into a respect cubicle.
Well, which is that, in the case of the Conservative Party now, I think the average age that the Labour Conservative voter crossover happens is 71.
Jesus Christ.
Right?
Wow.
Because
I know we've got an aging population, but how have there been enough of these old bastards to like keep the fuckers in power for 14 years at this point?
But right, this is also right. This is a narrower and more fanatical base is who you appeal to.
It's just wild though, because like years and years of like Labour electoral strategy was like, we wait for the like really old, insanely racist Tory loyalists who vote for everything down to like dog catcher to die, right? And what happened was they had a kind of Battle of Stalingrad level of reinforcements. They were bussing those fuckers in from God knows where. And they just finally now we're down to the dregs, you know?
But
The only refugees we accept are actually guys over 70, interrogating them about their views at the border.
Let me see your Facebook, and if the answer is I don't have one, you're going back.
That's right.
But what I see is like it's Labour being like, well, I get it is just like so much in British politics moves to the sort of the rightmost post as inherently sort of sensible or to be negotiated with, or as the protagonist of politics. Therefore, it is very important for Labour, which has now captured the vast majority of politically kind of apathetic but otherwise regular people. It's imperative that they like continue being sort of alienating and strange.
Sure.
Just like all of the sort of, as you say, like transphobia itself is always an election loser.
Yeah.
And so they have this like, locked in Ba'ath Party majority for exactly one parliamentary term, most likely, that they're then going to just be like, well, we must continue our rightward march culturally. We must continue our rightward march economically as we wind down the state slowly.
Yeah, and I mean, this is like, on the one hand, it's kind of electorally, it's a bit of a sideshow, but it is frightening on a personal level, right? And I think you have to think about the tweet that Kemi Badenoch did, right? That's like, oh yeah, we wouldn't have gotten any of this shit done if we hadn't gotten gender critical people like into a number of like institutional positions in like the EHRC or the Tory party or wherever else, and that's applying to the Labour Party too. Yeah. I think you can look at it as a piece of kind of like institutional capture.
Gender Leninism.
Basically, right? Is that a bunch of people who consider themselves to be a vanguard party of making everybody else insane about trans people have been like sort of carefully put into like influential positions, which is very dangerous.
J.K. Rowling Gila, J.K. Rowling Jiva, J.K. Rowling Budinjit.
I love to go to the respect gulag.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to move on.
Where's streeting? Where's ulichny?
I mean, Wes Streeting has the energy of a man who would be airbrushed out of a photo with Stalin, right? Like he would be. Yeah. He's like going to be one of the first to fall in the purges.
Stalin pictured here with this kind of like novelty hot dog in a suit that you would see outside a car dealership.
Yeah. Stalin pictured here with tallest child in all of USSR.
Scientists inflate him slightly in experiment.
We give normal Vladivostok boy growth hormone, and he
taken from beast.
He maintain normal face of baby, but become very tall. We put suit on him. He's cute. We make health minister. So this is. But I want to move.
Built a health minister in the lab.
Yeah. I want to move on though. I want to move on because I'm sorry, we're all gonna have to cancel. I think a lot of our plans.
Yeah, because I'm going to be in a respect cubicle.
Well, I have some bad news for you both. Israeli arms manufacturers have been asked to not attend the 2024 Eurosatori Missile Festival.
Oh,
that's.
I love the Missile Festival,
and that's one of their favorite things to do. It's a real sort of like sort of focal point of the social calendar. If you're a missiles guy.
Well, the thing about the Missile Festival is you don't want to camp near the toilets because it smells bad. But also the toilets is the only source of fresh water, so you don't want to be too far. But then you don't want to be too close to the stages because obviously the sounds of the surface-to-air missiles going off is pretty noisy when you're trying to sleep.
So at the end of last month, the French Defense Ministry announced that Israeli defense firms were disinvited from this like giant defense trade show, like the biggest French arms industry expo, essentially.
Yeah, their version of like DSEI that we have in Dortmund.
Exactly. Yeah. Because the conditions were not right to welcome them, while Macron was calling for an end to Israeli operations.
He's woke.
Well, he's Hamas.
Yeah, Emmanuel Macron, welcome to Hamas.
Emmanuel Macron, il est très réveillé.
And then they also...
The worst part is they just say woke. They just say wokisme. Yeah, wokisme.
Wokisme.
Yeah, Macron est woke.
So they banned representatives as well from firms for personally attending the show. And I think we talked a lot about like official now this is not a direct result of the ICJ like making any provisional measures findings. It's not a result of the ICC looking at anything in a pretrial chamber. What it is a result of though is I think probably those institutions exerting pressure on national leaders, because whatever you want to call it, these things do have some weight, and they are now resulting in Israeli companies having a harder time doing business with people they want to do business
and
with.
Making their arms deal is very sad, you know.
And again, I don't want to over-ascribe relevance to those particular institutions because those things aren't done yet.
Yeah, and
they're not codified in law yet.
It's an inconvenience, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to get a lot of hyperbole from Israel about how, this is a sort of blood libel or whatever. But like, it's good that it's happening, I guess. But on the other hand, I do feel a bit like, well, I'm glad everyone can have a nice missile show, Like,
let's have a good clean missile show.
Exactly. Yeah.
David Guetta's doing the Saturday night.
Yeah, now that we don't have the
The
Israeli
Israelis are so upset they're not going to get to see David Guetta. He's their favorite.
Going to see the like techno tent at Eurosatory. It's like it's not really the main thing, but you can still get like down the line. But I just now that there's not Israeli arms manufacturers there, we're just going to have the nice
average
ones.
quality of the MDMA is going to go way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, God.
This is, I think, just a good example.
Armin van Heimars, is that anything?
Again, this is also still contentious and like going back and forth in court. Right?
Sure.
But still, it's interesting to
being
see.
sued to be invited to a trade fair is a really funny bit. Like,
I have to go to the party.
Yeah.
You can't. I will call my mom, and she will call your mom.
I'm writing to you under the Freedom of Information Act 2000 to ask why you didn't tell me you were having a party.
Writing to you under the Freedom.
Israelis are very upset. They want to see dead mouse and Tiesta on the Sunday afternoon. They were planning to take mushrooms.
The Freedom of Information Act request put in by the Israeli government. Are you mad at me?
Yes.
Yes, very.
Because you keep doing all that shit. We told you to knock it off.
Yeah, but but there are other even more pernicious forms of sort of boycotting going on, not just at innocent missile trade shows, but also at some regional literary festival.
The Stochastic Book Fair.
Yes, that's right. What a great line. I love hearing it for the first time.
I'm so glad you enjoyed hearing it for the first time.
I love being able to react to it naturally.
Yeah. No. This is not just Israel that people are boycotting the Hay-on-Wye book fair.
Yeah.
Right. It's also because
into which like Hamas, as I understand it, personally paraglided. Right. And
it will ruin the David Guetta light show.
Yeah. And lightly pressured what was it? I don't remember which sponsor it was.
Bailey Gifford.
Bailey Gifford. Sure. Sounds like a girl that I went to school.
I was going to say company that sounds like an OnlyFans girl. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, they lightly pressured using their terror tactics of like writing letters and stuff. Yeah, asking nicely Bailey Gifford to like divest from the Hay-on-Wye like book festival.
Yeah.
Is that what's happened?
What happened is that these festivals were sort of sponsored by companies with links to arms sales, especially to Israel.
And fucking
links
everything
to
in the
fossil
arts
fuels.
is the thing. And like this is a valid critique of the arts, right? Is that you go and see like a painting or like a book festival or, gallery opening, whatever the fuck. And on the outside is like, this is sponsored by like all of the guys who are at Eurosatory missing their Israeli friends.
Yeah.
And Len Blavatnik.
This is, I always thought it was really funny that at Oxford there's a Len Blavatnik School of Government.
Yeah, the thing he's really good at,
It's like, wait a minute. Aren't you just doing that all? Never mind. So, any case, right. This is in Bailey Gifford. This is from Celia Walden in The Telegraph. She says, the arts world can't afford the price of purity.
Which is an interesting thing, right? To be like, to admit the thing that I think everyone, already acknowledges and has noticed, which is that like, wow, there's so much of this money from like really fucking sinister people flying around, and there's so little funding from anywhere else, least of all government. So like, if you want to do art stuff, in a lot of ways, if you want to do it with like a budget, you can't do it without these people.
Yeah.
But that's good, possibly.
Well, I think what's being argued, obviously, by her, and then I have another selection from a Daniel Finkelstein piece. In both cases, what's being argued is, in the first one, a little bit more subtly, in the second one, with the force of a sledgehammer. Or the obviousness of a sledgehammer, not the force, surely.
Trademark Finkelstein subtlety.
Yeah, indeed. In both these cases, right, the argument is you should be grateful for the patronage of people and not question them.
Yeah, Cesare Borgia is not a nice guy, but like you wouldn't get the oil paints without him. So like fucking maybe chill.
So she says, in a coup for protesters, Bailey Gifford has canceled all of its remaining deals with literary festivals. It's now hard to imagine why any company would put themselves to the ethical ringer for arts festivals in the future. After all, the sponsorship of a major event,
Wimpy Burger Cheltenham Book Festival,
is only a worthwhile marketing strategy if it shows businesses in a good light, and you have to wonder who would be considered pure enough to fund the arts. Almost as though what she's saying is, hey, let people wash their reputations, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very annoying that people aren't just that, like, look, here, BP is going to feed you a spoonful of slop and they've put some sugar on it, and it's annoying if you mention that.
Yeah, but you can see an exclusive interview with the author of like The Smallest Wife, or the things that we know to be true, or whatever.
That's right. It is very funny though to think of Bailey Gifford like trying to manage their reputation by sponsoring the Hay on Wye Literary Festival. It was like going to the Hay on Wye Literary Festival to watch the interview with like Salman Rushdie or whatever, and being like, you know what? I am going to let Bailey Gifford manage my assets. my $400 million of assets. I wouldn't buy a ticket to the literary festival, but I do have $400 million of assets.
It's a real kind of like a Jeffrey Epstein, the New York financier thing of like Bailey Gifford, the sponsors of the Hay on Wye Literary Festival.
Yeah, exactly. They're up to other stuff.
Yeah, but like legitimately though, like that's part of what it's for. And yeah, some of it's the kind of like, you know, ads on the like subway station in Washington DC under the Pentagon for like micro targeted to one specific guy of like you should buy this specific missile system or whatever.
Bill,
please sup.
How are the kids?
But like some of it is also just like
HSBC advertises in the airport. What do they advertise? HSBC in general. We connect. We're banking for the world.
Yeah, because you want to have like a positive association when people hear the name.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. But HSBC are a company that people use, if you know what I mean. It's like it makes more sense to be advertising it to people in the sense that, like, whilst it's very general, like they advertise Google to be like, hey, remember Google?
Yeah, but it means that anytime they come up in some kind of like a negative context or anything controversial, you know, say Bailey Gifford, that, you know, the company that did all that shit, you go, yeah, but also the responsible corporate citizen they sponsor the Hay on Wye Book Festival, for fuck's sake. Like, yeah.
I heard about the darkest wife there.
Exactly.
Daniel Finkelstein had this to say. He said, the fossil-free books campaign, which forced the investment management firm Bailey Gifford out of sponsoring book festivals, is a good example of the omni cause, which he thinks is behind all of this. It combines performance, the use of peer pressure, and the linking of apparently unrelated causes. Most of the coverage of the attack on book festival sponsorship...
They're not unrelated causes. You just refuse to understand the links because you're being obtuse. It's all the stuff about how, like, oh, you know, someone says Gaza is a climate issue, right? And it's like, you don't want to follow the sort of like 3 or 4 steps of logic involved there. So you're just like, no, it isn't.
Yeah. No, it's not. That's stupid to me.
And it's like, at some point...
Doesn't immediately... It's, again, you're not getting it on purpose. But what you then have to say is, well, it doesn't immediately make sense to me intuitively right away. Yeah. So obviously it's nonsense.
And it can do if you have a worldview that's based in like compassion or like understanding that like other people matter, right? At that point, the omni cause is just like, it's not even that radical. It's just like...
It's observing the world.
Yeah, it's what would have been called liberalism 20 years ago. It's like, it's just moderation. It's just like, it seems like other people are like sentient beings or something.
It's also quite funny to be like, I refuse to acknowledge that Gaza is also a climate issue, but also, crucially, I wouldn't care if it were.
Yes.
It's like, well, wait, you may as well acknowledge that it is, because you'd still be like, no, but it's still gay to care about it, so I don't.
Yeah, so most of the attack on the book festival sponsorship suggested that the campaigners oppose Bailey Gifford because it invests in fossil fuels and Israel, but I think it has it the wrong way around. What's actually happening is that the protesters oppose fossil fuels and Israel because they are being invested in by Bailey Gifford.
What?
That's that trademark Finkelstein wit right there.
I mean, Danny, right? Like, if maybe just as a thought experiment, maybe it's like sort of Mr. Beast social experiment, right? What if Bailey Gifford, just as a treat, divested from those things, and then we saw if the protesters are still mad at them?
Mm-hmm. Well, apparently,
just an idea. We could try that.
He says the target is the people who manage investments, and the very idea of investment itself. The target is capitalism.
Oh no!
Yeah, the Hay on Wye book first, the Hay on Wye Book Festival. Then the sealed train, and then global permanent revolution.
Well, I mean, we live in hope, right? But like, I think, sure, for some people, but like, I don't think that that's necessary or an inherent part of this omni cause, right? Like, I'm not trying to gaslight the guy here, but like, I think there are a lot of people for whom the omni cause is, just as you say, just like quite a liberal thing, I guess.
Well, he says Israel and fossil fuels are indeed connected, and what connects them is Bailey Gifford. Again, that is sort of like, you kind of have a point, but you haven't understood the point that you're making. What you think you're saying is that people don't like investment managers, and investment managers invest in both Israel and Bailey Gifford. And also,
Yeah, but
it was very funny. It was like
the missing point of like people not liking investment managers because they invest in those things, or because of the attitude in which they like the resources and the like distribution that allows them to choose to invest in those things. Right? If they didn't choose to invest in those things, I think there are a lot of people who would be like off the bus at that point and be like, yeah, these investment managers are like cool.
Yeah, what you're describing is again basically liberals.
Yeah, liberals.
Yeah,
like
basically
liberals, the squishier end of SocDems. I think it's like, and it's just like. You have to be like, it's a relative minority of those people who are just like, no, the whole system is fucked. I wish it were more, but I think a lot of people do not have some kind of deranged, specific beef with investment managers as a career choice, and instead, and are just observing things that happen rather than like grinding that.
Just like with someone walking into Michael Burry's office, you know, like the fucking the metal is blasting, and they're just like, "Why have you shorted Israel? Why you've got no money in Israel?" And he's like, "It's going to fucking zero. It's worth shit." And like, how do you know that? I read every IDF tweet. No one reads all of those tweets. I read every single one. They're full of shit.
So it says, this is why the fossil-free books campaign doesn't focus on, for example, Iran.
I guess I must have missed like Hassan Rouhani in conversation with like Marina Hyde at the Hay on Wine.
Hassan Rouhani in conversation with Salman Rushdie, a very controversial.
Yeah, I would go and see that one, whoever it was sponsored
just promoted
by.
like YouTube boxing.
Just coming over the table at him, like doing old man fight.
Doing a stare down.
Yeah, that would be sick. Yeah, but Bailey Gifford refused to answer questions about their investment in delicious baked rice dishes.
But yeah, it's just the oldest fucking rhetorical trick in the book, right? Is that why are you upset about the bad stuff that we're doing instead of the bad stuff that's also happening that we're not doing?
Why can't you do a protest for the army as they go and invade another country that's also doing the bad stuff you don't like?
Why are you pulling on levers that are connected to things?
So if the resolve of business collapses every time a boycott is threatened, and there's some bad publicity in The Guardian, which was against the boycott.
Yeah, because of Marina Hyde was like, because of wokes or whatever. She had a more sort of developed take than that, which is that like art isn't political, and it's actually very rude of you to introduce politics to my art, which is hysterical, right? Because I'm sort of, we're at a sort of point of contradiction there, right? Where someone who is like very well aware that art impinges on politics and vice versa is having to be like, but I don't want it to. I want to have my walled garden. I want to have my literary festival, and I don't want to hear about any of your stupid bullshit like a genocide or whatever. And I really like that we've got people to like lose their patience like that. I say we, like I'm taking credit. I really like the fossil free books have like got people to that point. You know?
Well, it's like, well, hang on a second. If none of this is political, then why is Bailey Gifford feel like it needs to wash its reputation?
Yeah, crazy.
And how come they're using these books? How come they're doing it then?
Maybe they're just nice.
Maybe they just like books.
Maybe they just needed somewhere to park their money.
Yeah, don't remember us for the stuff that we sponsor overseas. Remember us for the fact that without us, you wouldn't have got David Beckham's My Side.
It's true. David Beckham at Hay on Wire is a really funny bit, actually.
I wrote that bit about when I was in Spain. That's why it's mostly about Madrid, yeah.
David Beckham in conversation with Hassan Rouhani at Hay on Wire.
Okay, stop making me want to go to a literary festival.
Yeah.
They're a
you
good
two
time,
fellas need to calm down. I know you've got your differences, but easy. Gary Neville just also there. It was bloody ridiculous. Okay, of course Hassan Rouhani and Salman Rushdie aren't going to get on. There was a bloody fatwa. Have we all forgotten this?
Just it emerges over the course of a kind of like footballer moderated discussion that Salman Rushdie and Hassan Rouhani are both madder at like Alan Shearer than they are at each other.
Yeah,
we finally bring peace. We squash the beef.
Yeah.
Okay, Bailey Gifford. Sponsor this.
Rouhani through a translator. The way they did over Raoul Moat was disgusting.
All right.
Paul Gascoigne bringing us on Rouhani a fucking chicken and a fishing rod.
Because the way that like Iranian leaders talk is very literary, very mannered. Like they all have PhDs and stuff, so you'd get like a sort of like 4-paragraph translated thing of like, well, you know, when you consider it, and it's just about having done over Raoul Moat.
I think you know what we're gonna do. I had some stuff about like NVIDIA and AI. We're going to park that. We're going to put it in the next episode.
I had a really good joke about it. I have to remember it. I will not remember it.
We'll leave this. We'll even leave this part in so you listening don't think we've forgotten it. I just want to move on to sort of our main our main meat and potatoes here. Talking, of course, about the Reform Party, which is going to, like I said, over the next 5 years, remember what they talked about, remember what they promised.
They're going to reform us.
That's the thing. I think that the name alone is worth thinking about. Like they have always named themselves very actively as to what they're going to do. UKIP, Brexit, reform, and so on. It is a and they've always been they've always been serving the same role.
It's always like maximum intentionalism. There's a clear plan. The plan ends with I don't know where it ends, but like the next steps of it are pretty fucking brutal.
Where it starts isn't great.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And, we talk about
like the A303 in that way.
The whole...
it doesn't start anywhere good. None of the sort of like stops on the way are any good, and it doesn't end anywhere good either.
Brother, no one likes Basingstoke. But you know what's worse? Fucking Wiltshire.
Yeah. Talking of reform, right, is that it is confronting, and I think this is in the manifesto as well, it is confronting that things are broken. It's just that the energy of like managerial right-wing politics has always come from the fact that the motor has always been the extreme. And then and what has always happened, well, not always, but what has happened consistently in the last sort of several decades is that that extreme, like you might say, social conservative, exterminate the brutes motor was used, but like controlled to power a sort of neoliberal austerity.
The ultimate sort of like example and crack up of this was Cameronism, right? Do you remember the Cameron billboard, "We can't go on like this," about the NHS? It's like, it's all fucked, and I'm going to take that energy and I'm going to use it for like sort of, again, like the kind of ram raid privatization, but like in a kind of like mannered way, right?
Oh, it was the weirdly yassified Cameron.
Yeah, it was the smooth Cameron.
Yeah, it was a very smooth Cameron.
And ultimately he like lost control of it as a motive force and took us out of the EU over it. So
and now, right, we have reform, which is that motive force, but just that motive force, essentially.
Yeah. Flywheel not connected to anything, spinning really fast.
I want to first talk, of course, about a funny story with reform.
Okay. Which dozen of their candidates have gotten their old blog posts found this week?
Well, it's because they forgot to vet them.
Yeah. I personally, if I were running a political party for election, I would maybe remember to do that.
Well, they thought that they did.
Okay.
You know what this is? This is the lesson in tech procurement. When you spend sort of some like £100,000 or whatever onboarding a tech partner to auto vet a number of your candidates, you should familiarize yourself with how the service works. For example, if let's say you're a political party, let's call it Deform UK.
Sure.
Just a random one.
Tanzamat UK.
Yeah. And you hire you bring on a piece of vetting technology. You should note that you're required to put in the names of the people that you want vetted.
Sure.
They're not just going to, you haven't hired some whiz-bangs with a boffin and so on who are going to tell you which of the candidates for your fascist party have like previously praised Adolf Hitler.
This is a problem with being stuck in the 40s for reform, is that they're expecting a kind of Barnes Wallace, right? The backroom boys have invented this nonce detector. It goes beep, 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 beep.
Yeah. Have you previously praised Adolf Hitler? I imagine probably does come up at the interview, though. It's sort of a key competency.
Yeah.
Have you praised Adolf Hitler, but have you kept it private?
Are you willing to start?
So basically, they are blaming now the company that they bought a technology solution from, but essentially neglected to turn on, as having sabotaged them because it's owned by a Tory donor.
Cool.
Yeah. Now,
the anti-Nazi detector.
Yeah. One of them, of course, obviously did some Hitler praise. Standard reform candidate thing. Another account in the name of another party was, talked about we have to deport Diane Abbott, things like this. Specific sort of nastiness, only really equaled by her fellow Labour Party members frequently.
Oh, sure.
Talking of like migrants bringing in diseases. But here's my favorite one probably is Dave Holland, who is standing for reform in mid-Bedfordshire.
Nadine Dorris's old seat.
Yeah, Bedfordshire, it's all mid.
Wrote on his official website that the increase in gender dysphoria could have a range of causes, including canned food, the pill, and car fumes.
Car fumes.
He said, how can we say with certainty...
He's the first reform guy to be in favour of the ULEZ, but only because it's force spamming everyone. I'm sorry, the car fumes are turning everyone gay. We're going to have to get on the train.
You can tell because of the like kind of silky femininity of like every host of Top Gear.
That's right. Well, James May.
That's the thing, right? We talked
Good transition save, James May.
we talked in one of the previous episodes about AI Steve, right? And how AI Steve ended up actually kind of creating the average basic voter who kind of just isn't really that connected to politics, which is like scrap ULEZ, 4-day work week, have tuition fees, mandatory national service.
Well, Reform prefer AI and Eve.
But then in this case, right, it's the same thing. It's like we're getting the sort of your ordinary weirdo this is by and for them. So of course it's going to be very successful. Says on his website, he says, how can we say with certainty that tinned food, car emissions, radio waves, food additives, mercury, or other man-made influence isn't causing an increase in gender dysphoria?
Radio waves, fucking Lauren Laverne on XFM turned me trans.
I remember when all the 19th century hatters all went trans. hence the stacked trans hatter in Alice in Wonderland. That's how I remember the character.
When challenged on this by the newspaper, usually, right, a media-trained candidate would say something like, I was just asking questions. That was an old blog post.
It was 20 years ago. I think it's pathetic that you're trying to dig up things that I said that I don't stand by, etc.
Instead, what did Dave Holland do? Not that.
Teach the controversy,
He said, well, it seems unlikely, this was a response to being questioned about it. It seems unlikely that everything we do and have ever done as humans has had no direct or indirect consequences.
Whoa!
Kamala Harrising his way out of it.
Jesus Christ! There's a nihilist caucus in Reform UK? Who gave them copies of Derrida? What?
It seems unlikely that everything that we do and have done as humans has no direct or indirect like the sum total. So basically, in response to that, he says, well, the sum total of all human action throughout history has had both direct and indirect consequences for other things.
Yeah, and therefore it's not weird to say that Lauren Laverne's morning drive time show on XFM made me transgender.
It may well be the case that we have always had the same proportion of people with gender dysphoria, and it has only been in recent years that they've been felt that they can express their true selves. However, that seems unlikely to me.
Oh, okay.
The tinned food is much more likely.
It makes more sense that it's the beans,
As I said, my article asked questions. I don't believe there's anything in there that is critical of the transgender community. That wasn't my intent.
I mean, that's sort of true, is the thing. Like, it's strange to say because this is clearly like a weird guy who is thinking out loud, which is not generally a hobby of politicians for obvious reasons. But like, for both good and ill, right? Like, the respect cubicles thing, that's a concretely transphobic policy that's grounded in no beliefs whatsoever. There might be a few people with like extreme like bigotries involved in the making of it, but Wes Streeting doesn't believe in anything, right? There's no kind of like animating thought about trans people there because we're not considered. It's like poll number go up. Whereas this is a guy who's like, as far as I can tell, not proposing anything concrete that would like impact my life negatively, but does think that I exist because of beans. And on that basis, fair enough. He's doing me less harm than Wes Streeting.
A lot of great bean-based people out there.
You could have a conversation with fucking.
I think I could.
Dave
like
Holland.
not to do the thing of like, oh, I could have a pint with Nigel Farage, right? But like, this is a guy who does appear to be exercising some capacity for higher brain functions.
I could have a beans on toast with Dave Holland.
I could communicate with this motherfucker like the like squid in Arrival, but like Wes Streeting, I might as well try and talk to a fucking toaster.
Yeah, making beans on toast. Try and make Wes Streeting trans.
Interpolating consciousness happening there. Like, whereas the Labour right, there just isn't. There's nothing there.
Like, Dave Holland might be a weirdo.
Yeah.
He probably, I can't speak to whether or not he's personally transphobic. I only know that he endorsed very
kind of, but like...
he endorsed a transphobic manifesto, but as you say, he has beliefs.
Yeah.
He seems to be, they're weird.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know, they're based on a lot of the sort of, he has the beliefs of a Dr. Bronner's bottle, but at least it's an ethos.
Yeah. Like, to be clear, this isn't me endorsing Reform UK here. It's just me suggesting that, like, the political fringe not having everything locked down in terms of, like, a party line allows for a lot of idiosyncrasy that you would never, ever be allowed to have in the Labour Party, you know?
I also like that this implies that like if you tried to kill yourself with the fumes from your car in your garage and then you didn't succeed, you might just like accidentally make yourself trans.
Yeah, it's happened to me. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's like I'm gonna slurp down this can of beans and I'm gonna turn on the car.
Yeah,
Look,
and you get the radio on in there as well too. So it's like
one final dose of my two favorite things: beans and the Lauren Laverne show on XFM. Before I die and don't become transgender.
Do you think Jeremy Vine knows that he's transing people? Like,
okay, this morning we're turning people into women. That's right.
People into it. Interesting.
Dave in Southend, I hear you've changed your name since the start of the show.
We're flipping everyone around.
Jeremy Vine on BBC One with the big like pronoun-ometer.
Counting the okay, so the actual reform manifesto. This document that like
heinous ghoul stuff. I imagine.
This is. It's what Labour are going to be responding to and saying, well, that's all very sensible, but we must be sort of more cautious about it.
We can't ban beans entirely.
What kind of like feeling and shape am I being put into this time after the respect cube? What comes now? What kind of fucking like shame dodecahedron?
So basically, we'll start with sort of some of the headline pledges, right? Obviously, they're mostly an anti-immigration party.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they say they will finally stop the votes. They will leave the European Convention on Human Rights. They will prevent people from claiming asylum, setting up a new Department for Immigration, freeze all non-essential migration, and so on. So basically, like, take the way... Because the problem with the Conservatives, right, is that they have always, for their own animating motor, right, the animating motor of right-wing politics that we've talked about over and over again, we've sort of seen this, is trying to tear itself out of the housing that sort of drives it places and allows the car to continue driving, right? Because, like we've said before, the country is set up in such a way that its membership in these various international institutions that it makes it convenient to do business with.
Yeah,
it makes it easy to work with.
If you care about governing this country in a like stable way, right, and you don't want to do like a massive program of reform to turn us into fucking Nazi Germany, then you have to do stuff like stay in the ECHR, probably. And like you definitely need a shitload of like essential migration we've talked about with Emiliano. Stuff like, agriculture and the care sector requiring a shitload of exploited...
The circumstances under which all of that excess migration happens is very bad.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just like if you want the thing to keep working in the quite evil way we've set it up, you need to continue doing these things that you consider to be disgusting.
Yeah, you are looking at the fucking death machine and going, well, I would like to dismantle it, but to replace it with something worse.
Yeah, I would like, this death machine is not nearly painful enough.
Yeah.
It says reforms healthcare plan as well. Involves cutting waiting lists to zero by introducing 20% tax relief on private healthcare and insurance. So a lot of this is through like tax cuts and trying to say, well, a smaller government in every case is going to be a smaller government is going to be replaced by capacity in the private sector.
It's really just waiting for us to forget that Liz Truss happened, huh?
Well, exactly. This is because it's the same people who would consider the UK's main problems are the woke IMF. The same people who consider that the UK's main problems are a structural lack of investment that needs to be turned around with more investment.
Yeah.
That basically these people are not going to forget that. Right.
Sure.
These ideas are going to continue.
Just because my economic orthodoxy has been proven comprehensively wrong doesn't mean I'm going to abandon it.
And not even just wrong, but ineffective for managing international capital. For continuing to be a kind of international financialized capitalism power player. Right? Because this is reaching to something we talked about a long time ago, but I've always conceived of these things as capitalism arguing with itself.
Sure.
Right? The sort of Cameronite Toryism, the sort of Starmerite to a lesser extent as well, Blairism, all of these were different tendencies of essentially like internationalized capital that is about not being connected to any one particular place, that's about being able to work anywhere and being able to, like the elites being able to interface with one another and understand, well, you may be from China, I may be from Germany, but we all go to the same 3 Michelin star restaurant, we all work together, we all understand that it's more convenient for our business model to, have like gay people working here and to seem sort of cuddly and nice so we can make trillions, well, all this, right?
Yeah.
That was that model. And that model was increasingly coming into conflict with the more provincial, physical, heavily industrialized capital that's represented mostly by like petrocapitalism.
Sure.
Right? That's why like the oil industry is such a gigantic funder of like extremely socially conservative causes. That's why the Koch brothers
book
exist as
festivals.
they do. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Mohammed bin Salman fucking loves the Hay on Wye Book Festival.
So it's no surprise, right, that Nigel Farage, who is the personal avatar of that particular tendency in Britain, is engaging in a bunch of policy reforms that are incredibly antagonistic to what even the IMF has said that they want. Because it's like those guys are pussies. We're from real physical capital that's all about like those mud-covered men working really dangerously at what's some kind of oil rig.
Yeah, everybody on the right loves the Pinochet stuff about death squads, but they forget the Pinochet stuff about fucking the economy.
Yeah. I hate the gays. I love the slippery, greasy men rubbing against each other as they operate the oil rig.
Yeah.
So the party would also exempt frontline healthcare and social care workers from the basic rate of income tax for 3 years, write off student fees pro rata per year over 10 years of NHS service for doctors, nurses, and medical staff. Again, like sort of looking at things that there are a few things like make it cheaper to be a doctor. Right now it's incredibly expensive to be a doctor and your pay is very bad. We need quite a few doctors. There are things in this manifesto.
Busy in the respect cubicles.
Yeah. There are things in this manifesto that are willing to, it's not even saying it's 5% good. It's what I'm noting is like, it is acknowledging that things are very bad.
Yes, albeit in a sort of like arsonist holding pack of matches sort of way.
Exactly. Right. And that it's, I think these are the kinds of things that we can expect from Reform and the Tories as they merge into basically one right-wing party over the next 5 years. Is to be essentially like we have to the NHS is a lumbering dinosaur that must be cut. Private healthcare can fill in the gaps. We'll tax incentivize it. By the way, we're also going to like cut student fees for doctors as being and understanding gaining the ideological flexibility to like do both of those things.
Sure.
Right? Also, of course, because it's a party of like Facebook-addled wingnuts, they're going to put on the excess deaths and vaccine harms public inquiry.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
This is the flip side of being sort of an idiosyncratic cast of mind. Sometimes it leads you to the relatively harmless insanity of what if the trans people were caused by the radio. But sometimes it leads you to the much more harmful insanity of what if the vaccines, are killing people or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is because these are beliefs that are supposed to be had by like the herds. These are not the shepherds' beliefs, right? The whole point is like David Cameron doesn't believe. Sure, does he believe half the shit he says? It doesn't really matter. But he's not supposed to be as much of a true believer as Liz Truss was.
Yeah,
Liz Truss had the beliefs of the zealous beliefs of an enthusiastic follower who ended up in a leadership position she shouldn't have been in. Someone, again, like a reform candidate, again, it's the same thing. You are an enthusiastic follower and promoter of a cause that the leaders of that cause want you believing, but they don't want you leading because you will be weird and off-putting. The next one, they talk about about taxes, obviously. They are imposing bigger, more swinging tax cuts than the Tories.
Incredible.
Right? This is because the Tories, of course, are like having to raise taxes but trying to lower them a little bit because they're being fundamentally in their swan song manifesto. They are they're being very, very cautious while trying to appear radical. Whereas Reform is saying, oh yeah, we're going to increase the income tax threshold to £20,000 from $12,500. We're going to abolish inheritance tax effectively. Only very few people will pay it. They're going to scrap VAT on energy bills, lift the VAT threshold on businesses, but then reform IR35 and so on and so on and so on. Some things that are quite reasonable. IR35 is an insanely designed law. However,
we don't have a well-designed tax structure in this country. No.
Again, as you say, the arsonist recognizing that the building is quite fucked up.
Yeah.
Right. And
there's one way to solve that.
What strikes me over and over again, right, while reading this manifesto is when you properly acknowledge that the building is quite fucked up, you will get support for people in burning it down and building a much crueler building in its place.
Yeah, especially if you do it on the basis of if you're trying to appeal to people whose concern about the NHS is partially the ways in which it is obviously fucked and partially I want a white doctor, right? Then saying, oh, we're going to make it easier to train here, but we're going to make it harder to immigrate even if you're a skilled immigrant. is like an obvious way of doing that. It's a very emotive way of doing that. And it's, oftentimes quite successful, which is frightening.
Exactly.
The Reform voters handshake meme between their views on the NHS and their views on BBC television shows. I want a white doctor.
So on energy, the party proposes scrapping all net zero plans. And part of their argument for this is they say net zero means reducing man-made CO2 emissions to stop climate change.
Yeah.
But it can't. Climate change has happened for millions of years before man-made CO2 emissions, and the climate will always change. We should better adapt to warming rather than pretend we can stop it. Up to 10 times more people die of cold than warmth. And in Roman Britain, some 2,000 years ago, it was 2 degrees warmer than it is now, and grapes for wine were readily grown in Yorkshire.
Okay, cool.
It's not Roman Britain now, though.
No, it's not.
We grow different things.
Yeah, I've heard this. Way fewer aqueducts kicking around.
Yeah, and it's like, it's as though saying, look, we're just going to go back to kind of importing the money.
Back to before Britain was woke, the last time it wasn't woke, Roman Britain.
Yeah. It's we had Adrian's Wall, then. Yeah, didn't have to worry about the SNP, did you? No, they were all north of the wall. I tell you what, the time was, right, people in this country, right, they didn't complain about genders or whatever. No, you painted yourself in woad, didn't you? Yeah, you painted yourself in woad. You pledged your allegiance to Boudica, the Queen of the Iceni, and you act away at a centurion. And that's just how it was.
How can I be? Listen. How can I be a sexist? Yeah, I pledge my allegiance to Boudica.
Yeah, she's all right. I'll tell you what, she's one of the good ones. I said, you know what? I was like, I didn't know they let women drive a chariot. You ever seen them try and Bay Park one at Sainsbury's? But you know what? She was actually pretty good at it. Yeah.
Your brother has so many interesting views that he airs on this pod. Thanks for coming, Matthew, Milo's brother. I do periodically like to remind people that that's a specific impression of your brother specifically.
Yeah. This is one of my brother's classic ones recently was Jeremy Corbyn would never have voted for him, fucking lefty, but I tell you what, he's got some bollocks.
Your brother fascinates me.
God bless him, yeah.
On it goes.
Never thought I'd die fighting side by side with Milo's brother.
Yeah.
So it will introduce a patriotic curriculum in schools while banning the teaching of woke. What they say is a patriotic curriculum in primary and secondary schools. Any teaching about a period or example of British or European imperialism or slavery must be paired with the teaching of a non-European occurrence of same to ensure balance.
And of course, you can season this with the bad stuff that is actually happening, like, the ceiling of the classroom is falling on your child, killing them. And be like, the reason why that's happening is because they're spending all their money on teaching them woke and gender.
Yeah, well, the ceiling's falling on them, toughening them up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And also, again, it's like, but hang on a moment. Was like...
mandatory national service holding up bits of ceilings.
Yeah, that's right.
Just be a joist free.
Hey. Jeremy, if you talk out in class again, your national service will start. You'll have to be a joist.
Yeah, people have gotten lazy with all of this, building regs and stuff. Back in my day, we just used to hold up the ceiling. People used to trade off.
Yeah, I said women hold up half the ceiling.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, you get the taller boys in class.
Problem is, creates a ripple on the floor above.
Leave it out. We're playing snooker up here.
Also, it's like, well, hang on a minute. Because the whole point of that, right, is the reason that people talk about European slavery and colonialism and so on is that much of the inequality in the world now and inequality within developed countries, between countries, like developed countries and developing countries and so on, so much of that is down to that process that sort of formally ended, 70 years ago and informally ended never.
Yeah, there's a regular question of like, why are all these like refugees coming to the UK? And one of the answers is because they speak English. Why do they speak English? Because we fucking colonized their countries back in the day.
Yeah, we made them learn it at gunpoint. Yeah.
But what the demand here is people should be made to be confused. The teaching of the curriculum in the UK must be intentionally confusing. It must muddy the waters.
And we're going to teach them the like wrong definitions of words, like in dogtooth.
Yeah, we must like also say, well, it's again reduced to just like concepts and ideas flying around like billiard balls. Just being like, slavery is
that's in the classroom above.
Slavery is bad. And we did slavery, but also Mansa Musa's empire practiced slavery, so it all evens out.
Yeah, I remember him from Civilization 6.
Yeah, exactly. Leonard Nimoy told me about him.
Yeah.
Also, he says,
didn't I?
Our children must be taught about their heritage. Ban transgender ideology in primary and secondary schools.
Ban beans, ban petrol fumes, ban the radio.
That's right.
That one guy just ends up being a powerful backbencher and his stuff makes it, yeah. No gender questioning, social transitioning, or pronoun swapping.
You got a license for that haircut.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Pronoun swapping like it's Pokemon cards. Children are meeting up in bathrooms and engaging in pronoun swapping.
Having to hot desk my pronouns.
Yeah,
All the she, hers are taken. I'm having to fucking they, them.
Again, it's like...
Yeah. Ending up with the neo pronouns, like someone who forgot their PE kit. Like, oh, for fuck's sake.
If you didn't bring your she, her, you're just going to have to do it in your Zzer.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's like what we're talking about is from... And again, like I think it's a bit have I got news for you to say, oh, the Libertarian Party wants to like mandate who can have what haircut.
Yeah.
But that because the have I got news for you, that sort of observation is missing the point.
Yeah, the free speech stuff was never sincere.
Yeah, of course not. It was about reinforcing a hierarchy that they believe free markets contribute to but don't entirely get to. Right? Because if you let the markets be too free, then they'll start impinging on other important hierarchies like men above women, white people above non-white, and so on.
Yeah, you need some kind of fusion between corporation and state to enforce those things.
I would never work.
And then you like mobilize the whole economy and it all works out very well, probably.
Yeah. So other proposals include for their economy and benefits, include like a 2-strike rule for job seekers where benefits get withdrawn after 4 months of unemployment. So it's like, okay, starve. You have 4 months to find something, starve.
Fucking bring back the poor laws, I guess.
But also, at the same time, making St. George's and St. David's Day a public holiday to celebrate English national identity. Cool. It's like they went to the 2017 Labor Manifesto, grabbed a couple of headline policies, tortured them until they became evil, and then represented them along with the sort of most like batshit insane nonsense that Liz Truss campaigned on, basically.
Well, because of these days, because of woke, you can't even get hot cross buns because they've got to have a crescent on them because of Muslims. But, reform would change all that.
We can't get hot cross buns now because they were turning everyone transgender. It's the raisins.
Yeah. The raisins accidentally identifying as sultanas now.
Yeah. Sultanas are the female raisins. I will not elaborate.
We've got only 15 minutes left before we have to stop regardless.
Okay.
But I want to read this article from The Spectator.
Oh, boy.
It's by Zoe Strimple. And it is entitled The Mysterious Sex Appeal of Nigel Farage.
Oh, what's mysterious about it? Come on.
Yeah,
the
right?
man's a smoke show.
Yeah. Huge cock as well.
Monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not been eating his beans.
Like it's like this is while Sunak is getting like told off for having a Twix and needing to like apologize to the assembled like pensioner Soviet. They're writing the same kind of article they wrote about Boris in 2019 about Farage
or about Rishi
in
2020.
Indeed,
when he was doing Eat Out to help out, I'm sure you could go back in the archives and find a bunch of things that's like, yo, is this guy like low-key hot or what? Like,
yeah, he'd eat me out and help me out.
Remember Dishy Rishi?
Fuck, I do.
Yeah.
Huh?
I just did the dishy if you're like bending down. I just did the thing where I accidentally glanced over at Riley's laptop screen and I just saw the sentence, Farage brings to mind the kind of bonking. And I was like, oh no.
He evokes the bonking.
He evokes bonking.
Bonking, fantastic. Glutinous bonking.
So I remember sitting on a bus a few weeks into #MeToo and thinking
what a start. That recipe level first sentence.
Yeah. And thinking all the men looked disengaged. They were buried in their phones or listlessly looking out the window.
Yeah, that's people on a bus.
Yeah.
Like, I hate men as much as the next girl, sure, but like, what were they meant to be doing in that moment? Like,
I think like offering to light her cigarette, all of them.
Just doing a deep sort of personal inventory of themselves,
I imagined them thinking it wasn't worth it to look up, lest they be accused of making unwanted advances.
Lady, Jesus, we've all felt this way sometimes, but you don't have to write this.
These days, I spend fewer mornings worried about the fate of the red-blooded male, but nonetheless, it's not rocket science to suppose that a significant swath of men, it isn't really worth showing their appreciation of women.
Can we just show her that like Hinge has an age filter and you can set it upwards? Like,
nor is it surprising that the decline of male lustiness comes with the dimming of men's better traits. Those that were not
decline of male lustiness.
Those that were not creepy or sad, but fun and spice of lifey.
I ask if the man is creepy or sad.
That winning audacity thickened with masculine charm. This is some of the best writing I've ever
I understand that they
seen.
still make these. Like, I don't think people are having trouble finding men much.
They're around. I've
Yeah.
seen them.
Yeah, for sure. On buses.
Yeah.
But they're all just looking at their phones
Oh,
now.
fuck.
Yeah, they're all on their phones watching Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not sort of standing up to light your cigarette because it's actually beta to do that.
Well, you can't smoke on the bus now because of woke.
Yeah, they did that so that men wouldn't be able to light women's cigarettes on the bus.
Yeah. Well, you need 2 hands to light a cigarette, and one of your hands is already in use, holding up the roof of the bus. You can't let go. There's people playing billiards up there.
The concrete bus.
I was fond of the generosity of a committed drinks buyer who may hope for something physical, but who is also just happily paying homage. I was fond too of the
She
charisma.
misses the simp.
I was fond too of the charisma of the man capable of giving compliments and meaning them, and the raw sexual appeal of men who really like women, whether that is betting them, marrying them, or talking to them flirtatiously about real important
Do you
things.
think Nigel
What is she
Farage
actually
really
saying
likes
here?
women? I mean, Jesus.
I like the hard border between marrying women and having sex with women. Like, she considers those to be entirely different endeavors, which is sort of revealing of a certain type of person.
Well, it seems, however, that rather than entirely kill them off, #MeToo has created an appreciation of this ever more rare subspecies of male. How else to explain the continuous rip-roaring romantic success of Nigel Farage?
What?
I mean, look, here's what I'll say here. I do not think it is untrue to say there's a certain kind of person in this country who's desperate to fuck Nigel Farage. I just don't think that kind of person is someone we would call normal.
No.
But I feel as though Nigel Farage... How old is Nigel Farage?
He's in his 60s, right? He's got to be.
I feel like he doesn't...
He is only 60, which is to me baffling.
It's the like fags and like pints.
Yeah, he's not like an ugly man.
No.
And he's the kind of like eccentric wacko that a certain kind of like
Drunk person. Like an alcohol. Like he seems to me the kind of eccentric wacko that like a sort of isolated alcoholic would find very charming.
Yeah, if he was in like a rural pub, yeah, that'd be, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I do not like Nigel Farage, the politician, nor particularly the man.
Interesting, because you've chosen to write an article about how sexy he is.
He seems brash and vulgar and big-headed.
And I'm desperate to fuck him.
Sexually, I prefer to go for a skinny young man with cheekbones and a natural six-pack any day of the week.
I'm sorry they're all transgender now. I'm sorry we did this to you.
They all listen to the radio.
Yeah.
They ate those beans.
I've been forced to go for Nigel Farage, although he does have a natural six-pack, so, you know.
That said, his approach to women and fun, the boozy nights in the pub, the rounds of cocktails, the clouds of smoke, and the obvious enjoyment of the fairer sex is a reminder of a jollier time of humorous rollicking, chance-taking, and cheekiness.
The clouds of smoke, Nigel Farage says she's shoplifting from Tesco.
Can we fucking like stack the deck and get this lady on like dining across the divide or something? Anything to get this woman on a date. Like, Jesus. With humanitarian aid, we need to parachute in some men to this woman's location. Like,
Unfortunately, they're all connected by radio contact to base.
oh, fuck.
They're going to be women by the time they land. Look out. Farage brings to mind the kind of bonking that wouldn't be followed by a chilly ghosting, but rather more invitations to drink and bonk and make merry.
Only a plonk would call time out and sozzled bonking. This is an unserious country.
Yeah.
I love how you just had that in there like a hadith,
I
like
did.
a
It
word
feels
for word, like a
one.
verbatim.
Yeah. I'm not thrilled about what that says about me, but
Compare that to today's po-faced culture of scrupulous consent-seeking and feminist allyship.
Not. I mean, what? It does, but also if you're looking for like a sort of unwoke man or whatever, again, I find that there's no shortage. Like you could just like fucking get an app, get in the apps.
I don't know. It also seems
Speed
weird to
dating?
be like, she's sort of saying like, oh, it's kind of sexy when men are a bit like devil may care or like, you know, not like, I don't know. But the only example she can think of this is Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
Well, again,
surely there are sexier men who like smoke and are like a bit fun.
Yeah. Like surely you don't have to go straight to Farage.
No,
Well, the idea of a Farage sort or of a Boris type looking for women on dating apps is simply not possible to imagine.
Yeah, fucking is. Like,
okay.
fine. Go to a pub. Like,
Yeah. The man I saw drinking a pint in front of a 12-inch television on Christmas Day alone.
But like, also part of it's like, oh, I like a man who's a bit of a throwback and isn't like, obsessed with this modern woke shit. Why can't I find him on any of this modern woke shit? It's like, surely you need to adapt a bit too. Like, you need to become a bit less like modern. Like,
these are blustery, slightly unkempt, upper middle-aged men who drink too much and probably have bad breath.
Jesus, go to any pub. There are like herds of the fuckers.
Yeah. What do you think that they're? What Zoe? Do you think men are primarily like, especially men in their 60s?
This
in
lady,
this country,
this lady is like an old man chaser, and I respect that very deeply. But she needs to like get some tips. Like
bad breath is amazing. How is that a plus?
There really is someone out there for everyone, isn't there?
I have like a really posh friend from university whose dad at some point, like a couple of years into retirement, decided to simply stop brushing his teeth, and was like, and he was being queried on this, and he was like, well, I don't see the bloody point. And then his mother was like, I will divorce you, and he started brushing his teeth.
Yeah. I love Lisa Strata.
But yeah, old men be doing this shit,
Yeah, and apparently some people will be finding it hot.
Yeah,
well, and I don't judge much.
Admittedly, women at the Spectator, but still, women.
For sure. Like, but that's another thing. You work at the Spectator. Surely this guy is like a regular visitor to the Spectator offices, or if not him, someone who will shortly grow into him.
Someone who works there has to be exuding this vibe.
It's the scent of the old school good time man. Of course, an aroma made extra attractive for being so rare, and thankfully, like other unethical luxury goods, it hasn't yet been entirely banned.
Yeah, it's a lot like taking a flight when you could get the train.
Right. Well, it's something Nigel Farage probably won't do again.
Anyway.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, it's what a thing to have written down and published under your own name, huh?
Yeah, just the other people who write for the Spectator reading this and being like, maybe I'm in there. Maybe I'm in with a shot.
Jesus.
I'm an old man with a drinking problem and reprehensible views. Maybe I'm hotter than I thought I was.
Seriously, just if this woman got on like Hinge or whatever with the bio, like, I am looking for an older man with like a drinking problem and reprehensible views, probably do very well. Like, I don't...
Getting a lot of messages. It's like, well, I wouldn't say reprehensible.
Just getting a lot of arguments,
Yeah.
All right. I think that's probably all the time we have for, but it's Thursday, so thank you for being a free listener to the show. We are going to have a bonus episode, of course, this week. It's going to be $5 a month, as usual, to subscribe. We're going to get back on our $10 shit with Left Unread when November gets back home. We're going to do a quick fire. Third in the Aubrey Maturin series, HMS Surprise.
HMS Surprise.
My favorite so far.
It's always birthday.
Yeah. You do that joke last time as well.
It wasn't on the podcast. It was just to you.
Yeah. It's tough to tell the difference sometimes.
Yeah.
Edinburgh show mostly sold out now, but there might be some tickets left.
Yeah, there's a few left, so get after that.
It's August 14th in Edinburgh, as I said.
Hey, my Edinburgh show, why not?
Yeah, that's only got a few tickets left as well.
There's more tickets for that. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot more dates of that. So,
okay. All right. Well,
all the more reason to fill them up.
Yeah, that's right. Come early, come often.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will be seeing you in all of those various locations.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.